Hello everybody. In this video we will learn the basic syntax of Python, what we can do with Python strings and data types. We will learn about if and else statements and also for and while loops, and have a few mini examples along the way to really deepen those basics. So very quickly, this is a string. To say string, you put it in quotation marks, string hello world. Okay. Now what can we do with this string? We can try and make our computer say that string or that text. And to do that, we can use the command print. Print, and then you have parentheses. And in these parentheses, if Python is saying, all right, say anything that's in here. Okay, so hello world. This should say hello world. It's in the parentheses. It's an error. Why? Well, Python has no idea what hello world is. Is it a new number that was invented? Is it a variable that you made that we'll get to later? No, we're trying to say it's a text or a string. And like we said, we show a string by using quotation marks. These can be either single or double, but I prefer double. So now hello world. You see it's in its quotation marks. Make sure that these quotation marks and parentheses are not unmanned. There is something that is associated with them. This is where a lot of Python errors occur from. You have an unmanned quotation mark or an unmanned parentheses. Alright, let's see, it works. So that's basically strings. You can even add strings together. To do that, outside of the quotation marks, I can do plus, and then inside, and make a new set of quotation marks, or make like a new string itself. Hello world. And then see, when we realize how Python literally will mash it together. So usually in order to make it look aesthetically pleasing, you're going to need your extra spaces that you're going to have to put in yourself. Alright, so that's basically all of strings. What about numbers? Well, Python works with numbers pretty well. For example, if I print 15, it doesn't need to be in a string. Python knows what 15 is, a number. I can even do addition using the adding symbol, and subtraction using the minus symbol. I can use multiplication using the asterisk that's above the 8, and I can do division using the backslash. Alright. Now, moving on to variables. Variables are very easy to make in Python. You just set your variable name. Make sure it's one word. You can't have a multiple word variable. X equals to, and then assign it. A variable can be a number. A variable can also be its own string. So like, hello. You can even work with variables. For example, if I want to print X, now Python knows that X is going to be a variable because I defined it up here. Therefore, I don't need any special, help. So print X 15. If I want to print Y, it would return hello. Yeah. You can even add and subtract variables together, but this you have to make sure that their type is the same. For example, if I try to add X and Y together, it's an integer plus a string. That's not going to work. But if I make for example, a new variable, call it 16, and then try to do X plus Z, well, they're both integers. So when I add them, oh, perfect, 31. Now, there is a way to convert from one variable type to another. For example, if I wanted to convert X to a string, I can actually use the 3-letter term str, which stands for string, and it's like stringifying. So I'll have my new set of parentheses, so Python knows what I'll be stringifying. Okay, I'll be making X a string, and I want to add it to Y. Now X is a string, so it'll be 15 plus, or the string 15 plus the string hello. Remember, Python just jams these strings together, and we'll get 15 hello, literally right next to each other. What if Y was a string 17, and I wanted to do X plus Y? Well, now Y has to become an integer in order to do math. So we just do the symbol X plus int. We're like integerizing Y. Make sure that Y is in the parentheses here. And then X plus Y, 32. Alright, now let's move on to if and else statements. If and else statements are like a checkpoint. Basically, the computer is like, alright, if this happens, should I do this or that? And they're pretty easy to set up. So you can do if. Let's, for example, have this variable x, say age, and that's equal to 18. Now, if your age is greater than, we use the greater than sign, or equal to, using the equal sign. If it's greater than or equal to 18, colon. Now, when you enter, Python will usually automatically do this, but it's an indent. And it's to signify that whatever is in this indented piece of text, that will be accessed if this condition is satisfied. Python uses these indents. It's an indent-based language, not like C++, which uses curly braces. Python uses indents, which can be a lot cleaner and a lot nicer to look at. Alright, if age is equal to 18, print you are an adult. Now, if we want to show that there's a separate result, we can type else. Make sure it's at the same level, because as I said, it's not like, oh, if your age is greater than 18, you print it, and then in that same column, say else. No, make sure the else is on the same level as the if it corresponds with. Again, colon, parentheses, indent, print, you are a minor. Alright, so now if I run, I'm 18, so I'm an adult. But now, what if the computer is trying to ask you a question and say that? For example, what if, I want to ask for the user's age? Well, listen, I don't know if their age is 18. It could be 16. Well, that's actually why we could use a variable, the variable age, to get input from the user. To do that, we would do age is equal to input, and this will just take the input of whatever you say. What is your age? Make sure to add a space to look aesthetically pleasing, because Python will put that cursor bar right where your ending character is. So what is your age? I can say I'm 15. I could say I'm 23. But there is one problem with this. This is a string. But we're working with integers. So that's where we can use our conversions. If int age, so the integerizing age, and if that is greater than or equal to 18, you are an adult. So if I'm 32, I'm an adult. What if I'm 7? Well, I'm a minor. And you can see it works. Now notice that this equal sign also means that if I'm 18, I am considered an adult. Make sure you have that, just so you have a pathway for all possible answers. Alright. Let's finish off this video with the for and while loops. Alright. A for loop is basically while something is happening, well, for everything that is happening in a set, continue doing this. And a while loop is while something is like this, continue going through the loop. So I'll give it a condition. For example, let's say age is equal to 5. Or let's say, while age is less than or equal to 18, print you are a minor. And then if inside the while loop, if your age is greater than or equal to 18, sorry, it should be less than 18, greater than or equal to 18, print you are an adult. And then what we want to do is end the while loop, so we break it. Notice that the if is again indented inside the while loop, because we're like, okay, all this will happen while this is going on. But we have to check to make sure that the age isn't, less than 18. If it's greater than 18 at any point, then we have to break the while loop. Alright, so let's continue. If we run this, well, look, it's just spamming. You are a minor. You are a minor. Because my age is 5, which is less than 18. And while it's less than 18, we told our program to, continue spamming, you are a minor. Alright, now the way to not get this out of hand is to do something like age equals age plus 1. And that's basically adding 1 to age. The better way of doing this is to say plus equals 1, which is the same as just incrementing it by 1. It's very nifty, so I prefer using that. But anyway, while this is happening, my age increases by 1. So, oh, you're a minor, you're a minor. Eventually, age will increase by 1. So, oh, when you're 5, you're a minor. When you're 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up until you're 18. Then we rake by saying you are an adult. Now, for loop can be found and used in a similar way. But one of the best examples of how to use a for loop, we're going to have to introduce a new thing called lists. So a list can just be defined as your list name, let's call ours list, as square brackets, and then a collection of anything. It can be numbers, it can be strings, it can even be floating numbers or decimals, which we will get to in next video. But anyway, let's keep it to this right now. Basically, for loops are really good at iterating through something and being like, okay, if something matches, then we can notify the program and do something about it. So the simple way to do a for loop is just for, and then we make our own variable. I usually like to use I. Now, there are multiple different ways to use it in our list. For example, if we do for I in the list, it's basically saying that I will take place of every element, as they call it, these, little things that these terms are called elements in the list. And they start from 0. This is considered actually the 0th element. And this is considered, well, the n-1th element. So 0, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I know, it's a bit confusing, but basically just think of one less than the element place, okay? So if we do a for I in list, basically I is just going to act like this element. And then, so I guess you could be, if I is equal, we use double equal sign, remember, for if and else statements, because we're trying to compare something. I may not have stated that clearly, but I'd like to emphasize it now. We use double equal signs to, equate and check if this is equal to, for example, 5. We make sure to use double equal signs. Again, our indent to show in 5. If I is equal to 5, then we will print I found 5. And let's try and say what element this is. So it'll be I minus 1, right? Because I is going to be 5, and then 5, or 5 plus 1, my bad. Minus 1. And that's just going to be the place value. Technically, 5 is the 5th term, but the list starts at 0. So it's going to really be like the 4th element of the list. So by printing I minus 1, you found the 4th element of the list. Which, I guess, I know it's a bit confusing, but we will get used to it. Alright, but my favorite way to use a list is instead of acting as the element, we can act as the element number. So one of the best things to do is use a range function. So for example, a range function could just be from like 1 to 500, where I takes on the values of 1, 2, all the way up to 499. It doesn't reach 500, just so you know. I know, Python is always good at going one less than what it promised, but not in quality. Alright. So for I in range 1 to 500, print I. Alright, well, it's printing all the numbers all the way from 1 to 499, and of course I'll have to scroll all the way. 467. I think my program buffered out before it was able to reach 499, because that's the problem with online terminals. I guess we'll do a smaller one in order to really show in our example. 450. When we reach the bottom, we should get 420. Okay, golly. Sorry, guys. I think we're going to have to go really small on this one. 120. Yeah, 109. Stops one before this. Alright. So now what we can do is say, alright, for I in range, the length of the list, we want to access the list element. And one of the ways to access a list element is to do, for example, print, take the name of the list, square brackets, and which element you want. Remember that the element number will always be one less than its place value. So if I'm looking for the fifth element, I'll need to look for the fourth, or the fifth placed element, I'll have to look for element number 4. Remember, because it starts at 0. But if I print element number 4, oh, that's 5. If I wanted to print element number 7, which is going to be the last element in this case, it will be 8. Now we will learn all about this and all about the nifty little things you can do with lists and their cousins, tuples, and their other cousins in dictionaries. But basically, in the end, what we can use this knowledge for is that for I in range. Now, the list can be anything. We know it's between 1 through 8, but what if, I didn't know how long the list was? Well, there's actually a feature called lens, or len, and take the len of the list. And it's basically just going to take the length of the list and be like, oh, there are 8 terms. Alright, so for I in range the length of list, when range is not specified, I starts at 0. Everything is good, it's starting at 0. The list element starts at 0, I starts at 0. So for loops and range for lists are very good because they all kind of align. Because, lists are always one less. Their element name is one less than the length, and the range function goes up to one less than to its max. So surprisingly, they line up pretty good. I guess I was playing, but I wish it was a bit simpler. But anyway, for I in range length of list, now to access our list element, we can say if list element, so list I, because we're saying that the ith element in our list. If the ith element in our list, remember double equal, is equal to 4, print I. So we want to know, which element I is equal to 4. Okay, so as we can see, the third element, technically, of the list is 4. Of course, it's not the third place, it's the third element, because it starts from 0. So if we want to know the place, we do I plus 1. So 4 is in the 4th place. How about if this string hello right here? We want to know where that is. Okay, we go to remember, make sure you have don't leave a quotation mark behind. But exactly here, we found that the 7th element of the list will be hello, and therefore it will be the 7 plus 1, 8th place. But that's basically how nifty things about for and while loops. I hope that all of you guys learned a thing or two. I apologize for any mishaps along the way, but I hope to produce more Python videos continuing on with this series, and hopefully we can make us, more interesting samples. Well, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next